I've already expressed my fascination with Richard Kelly in a previous video, and after reading part of his absolutely insane screenplay for Holes, it had me wondering about what other projects he's worked on in the past that didn't quite work out. As of now, he currently claims he has over 10 projects in development, and he's waiting to see which one gets lucky enough to have a green light. Kelly has mentioned that he stayed in contact with most of the actors from his films, and hopes to work with all of them again. Whether they fell into development hell or were cancelled, here are the projects Richard Kelly almost did. Bessie, starting with a pretty weird 2000 script. Bessie tells the story of a talking mutant cow that goes on a tour. A musician manager named Ron McKittrick quits his job after a negative client experience. An old friend introduces him to a cow named Bessie, who has the mental capacity of a third grader. His friends want McKittrick to assemble a team to make the public aware of Bessie. However, Bessie's full abilities are eventually realized, including levitation, telepathy, and superintelligence higher than she lets on. Typical Richard Kelly craziness ensues. Holes. The script for this one is available online. It's pretty crazy. Kelly was hired to adapt the classic book, and he went in a very strange direction. He changed the setting to be post-apocalyptic, with a harder edge, more swearing, and a weird change where Stanley Mercy killed his sister instead of just stealing sneakers. I actually would like to do a longer video on the script in the future. Like most of Kelly's stuff, there's a lot of themes going on about like religion, impending doom, sci-fi elements. It's probably for the best they just kept it closer to the book. A surprising amount of scenes here were actually carried over to Southland Tales, like Abilene, Texas being bombed. Ice 9. At one point, Kelly was hired to script a film adaptation of Kurt Vonnegut's Cat's Cradle. Cat's Cradle is a darkly satirical sci-fi novel about science, technology, religion, etc. One of the main elements is the eventually disastrous invention called Ice 9, a material that instantly freezes anything with water in it, including humans. I couldn't find a ton of information on it, however, Richard Kelly said he changed the title of the story to just Ice 9, as he felt the script he wrote was so radically different from the book he couldn't keep the title as it was. An untitled Oliver Stone gun control satire. No information other than that Oliver Stone had it under auction briefly in the 2000s. Knowing. This movie eventually was made by Alex Proyas and Nick Cage, but Richard Kelly was briefly attached at one point in 2004. I was going to direct the $15 million budget version of Knowing, based on my rewrite of the script at Fox Searchlight, and it fell apart at the very last moment over business affairs issues, and everyone was concerned that it was too ambitious to be able to achieve that film for $15 million. I had a lot of big stuff in there, expensive stuff. Everyone was just really nervous that we couldn't pull it off, and there were other business affairs issues. It just collapsed and I went on to Southland Tales. An untitled near future Manhattan project. Details on this project are very light, as there doesn't even appear to be a name. In a 2009 interview, he stated, "I'm working on my new script. I'm probably on the 8th draft of it right now, and I've kind of just been waiting for the box to come out to see if I can get this project off the ground. It's a thriller set in Manhattan in the year 2014. We hope to shoot the movie in 3D, and part of the movie would be filmed using full CGI motion capture. Whereas most of these other projects were officially canceled, this one just kind of disappeared." Soulmates. Another project floated around at one point. No other details. He did mention this and the next two in 2021, so it's possible they are all still on his mind. Corpus Christi. Announced in 2011 and produced by Eli Roth and Robert Rodriguez, Corpus Christi was a thriller set in the Texas city. According to an old article by Empire magazine, the story would follow mentally challenged Iraq veteran Paciencia Patience de la Rosa, who strikes up an unlikely friendship with his boss, supermarket chain owner and wannabe political hotshot Ralph Salverson. Edgar Ramirez was set to star as the lead, and was interested in showing more range as an actor. The film was also set in the slightly near future of 2014. While there isn't a specific reason why the project fell through, it's possible there were financial reasons. Amicus. Amicus was going to be a true crime thriller starring Nick Cage. Kelly was directing, writing, producing the film. A strange story detailed by IndieWire. Lawrence Horn, a former Motown Records exec and record producer who is currently serving a life sentence for hiring a hitman to commit a triple murder, is where the tale begins. Laid off by Motown in 1990s and sliding into debt, Horn contracted a Detroit hitman, James Perry, to murder his wife, physically disabled son, and the family nurse for insurance money. Convicted and sentenced to death for the murders in 1995, Perry evidently used the book Hitman, a technical manual for independent contractors, as a guide on how to pull off his brutal plan. The families of the victims went on to file a class action lawsuit against the Colorado-based publisher of the book. Paladin Press and Smalla were hired to consult in the case that dragged on for 5 years with various strange twists and turns. While Variety doesn't mention it by name, presumably some of the story is based off of Smalla's colorful book about the events. Deliberate Intent, a lawyer tells the true story of murder by the book. That evidently got him ostracized in some circles of the media law community. James Gandolfini was also set to star, but the actor's death put plans on hold indefinitely. Rod Serling biopic. In 2019, Richard Kelly was working on a biopic about Twilight Zone creator Rob Serling. I found a quote of him talking about the film, which he would direct and write. "It's a really complex, challenging film. There's a very ambitious fantasy approach to telling the man's life, and so we have to have all the elements in perfect synchronicity. We want to make sure we have enough money to do it right and all the right casting, because we don't want to make that film with one wrong element that throws it out of whack, because we have such enormous respect for the astonishing footprint that Rod Serling left behind. Southland Tales spin-offs. A clearly personal passion project, Richard Kelly never stopped writing stories set in this universe. The movie was an infamous bomb, grossing less than $1 million, but Kelly still holds out hope that the full saga could be explained. The film is chapters 4 to 6 of a 6-part story, so he wants to adapt the prequel graphic novels into an animated series. And additional material of the in-universe screenplay, The Power, which is written by Boxer Santeros and Krista Now, has a lot of trippy information. Currently he's trying to figure out if he can make it in a streaming format and get all the original actors to return. A Donnie Darko sequel. Richard Kelly was in his 20s when he had to relinquish the rights to Donnie Darko, and thus he had nothing to do with the panned 2009 sequel, having admitted that he's never even seen it. However, it seems that he's had ideas of his own on how to continue the complex story. He first suggested it in 2017, planning a continuation that was bigger and even more ambitious. In 2021, he stated that an enormous amount of work had been done on the script, and part of what inspired him was a conversation with James Cameron over a decade prior. Cameron suggested that he continued working on the story. In his own words, he realized there's something big, something epic that could be done. According to Production Weekly, Richard Kelly has a project set to shoot during this current fall, though I don't know how accurate it is. Hopefully we'll get to see him direct again, as there are a few filmmakers with the wild ambitions of Richard Kelly. Seriously, for better or for worse, nobody else could have dreamed of something like Southland Tales or Donnie Darko.